first I'll just share the correct answer to that question that we just had. Most electricity is used with heating and cooling. Cooling is actually, going back to data from last year, cooling is 16%, that light blue area towards the top. Space heating is right behind that, 15%. So between heating and cooling, the air conditioning and heating, that is 31%, okay? So if you're looking at the average bill is about $125, your heating and cooling each month would be about $40. And that can be distributed throughout the year based on the weather, but on average, it'll be close to $40 a year here in Maryland, okay? So heating and cooling are big areas. The other category has a lot of exterior lighting and other electronics. So there's some different categories there, but heating, cooling being the predominant one. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time in the few minutes we have left. We're going to talk about some heating and cooling, ways that you can save energy there. Really, the less you use your air conditioner or heater now that it's cold, the less you use those appliances, the more energy you're going to save. Okay, so it's recommended to use a ceiling fan, or if you have a ground-mounted fan as well, a desktop fan, do that as well. With the winter season, it's important to note you can flip the switch on most fans, have a switch up on the top that you can hit, and that'll change the direction that the fan spins. So in the winter, you want to have it going clockwise, and that's going to help pull the air from the top down. And so you want that warm air to come from the ceiling down to the living space. And you don't want to do it too fast. You don't want to have it on a high speed setting now that it's cold, because that's going to have that chilling effect. You can also turn the fan off when you leave the room, because it doesn't do anything while you're out of the room. A fan only works when you're in the room. But regardless, a fan will help to cut down on your electricity costs. Thermostats can be set in the winter. I mentioned this earlier, but you can set it a little bit lower. So it's recommended about 68 degrees in the winter when you're active in the home. When you leave the house, you can bring it a little lower. At night, you can bring it a little lower as well. 65 degrees recommendation at night. Again, you don't have to go this low, or you can go lower if you're a little bit braver than I am. But every degree, this is kind of a rule of thumb, every degree that you bring it down in temperature will save 2 to 3% on your energy bill. So it really does have an impact there. And then there's some similar trends that you can do there in summer as well. Put it a little higher than you would in summer. So again, I'll share this information after our webinar if you want to revisit that. There are other technologies out there like programmable thermostats. Most people have a programmable thermostat in their home. Those are pretty standard and have been for some time. It's interesting, I've included those graphs there just to indicate that 41% of people have programmable thermostats, but only 12% actually program them. I find that kind of funny. But if you actually program those, you can set the time of day, and you don't have to be worried about that every day, changing the settings on your thermostat. There's also, more popular now, is the smart thermometers, or thermostats rather. Google Nest is one brand, but there's a number of those. So you can get them for pretty good deals, if not free, through incentives and rebates, or for a small cost of the device itself. But that does all the work for you, and it'll learn your settings and help you save energy that way. So those are some technologies. Again, we'll talk more about it in the coming weeks when we come back for heating and cooling. I think on the 17th, we'll talk more about these. You don't want any air leaks around windows or doors. Same with air ducts. If you have central heating and cooling systems running through your attic or crawl space, make sure it's not leaking into those areas. Replace your air filters, monthly or according to what the manufacturer recommends. So those are some things. Again, we're not going to get into all those today, but those are some ideas. For hot water systems, I'll say a couple things about that. On the conservation, again, conservation, if you remember, is the behavioral changes. That doesn't require any measures to put in place, and so or any cost associated with it. So make sure you have the correct size water heater. If it's not, I don't think it's a big deal, but if you're buying a new one, make sure that you're sizing it appropriately for the number of people that you have in your house. Temperature is important as well. Most of them come from the store when you buy them at 100, set at 140 degrees, give or take some. But it's recommended that you turn the temperature down to about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And most of them have, a dial or something on the side that you should be able to find. Sometimes you have to remove a panel to find the temperature. If you have a thermometer and you measure the temperature at your sink until you get it down to 120. It might take a couple days to kind of, just bump it a little at a time till you get to 120 and just keep going back and forth to measure the temperature. So that could take a couple of days to get that done. Don't go below 120 either. You don't want to drop so low that the water is not safe for consumption. But insulation as well. You can buy an inexpensive insulating jacket for most water heaters. Typically $20, $25, or you could use a rebate to get it through some of those programs, and that usually helps. Energy efficient models, of course, and you can look at the efficiency ratings for them. One thing I will point out, you've probably seen these kind of yellow tags on products and appliances before. If you haven't, be on the lookout for them the next time you're in the store. This one in particular has an Energy Star label, and you look at that yellow tag, and the bottom right of the yellow tag is an Energy Star label. That means it's energy efficient. They always tell you how many kilowatt hours of energy it's expected to use. And so this is just an estimate. You might use it more or less depending on how quickly you use hot water. This one is 1,289 kilowatt hours. Based on that, it gives you a number of how much it'll cost in electricity each year. So this will cost you $155 for electricity for the year. That's an estimate there. There's some other energy efficient factors, and we'll look at those more closely next time. But you can compare the efficiency of appliances. What I will say with hot water is the less hot that water that you use, the better. You want to use more cold than anything. Average shower length for people in the United States is 8 minutes, a little over 8 minutes. The quicker you take a shower, the less hot water you use. So rule of thumb there is every 1 minute. So if you go down to 7 minutes or 6 minutes, every minute that you save running that hot water should save you about $15 per year. You can make sure that you have low flow shower heads or aerators on your faucets as well, typically between 1 and 2 gallons per minute. That's what GPM means. So you want to get those types of aerators. You can use the calculator. I've included a link there to the Department of Energy. They have a calculator on there for hot water. And if you're looking at replacing a shower head or something like that, you can get information there and run some numbers. Again, when you're doing your laundry, washing your clothes and dishes, use the cold cycle as much as possible, and you should see savings on that end as well. Lighting, of course, we know LEDs are fairly efficient, but anytime that you can use natural lighting from your window or from a desk lamp instead of lighting the whole room, that's going to be a benefit. Turning the lights off when you leave the room. Just be, I guess, as one precaution, I'll say with the CFL, those twisty light bulbs, if you turn those CFLs on and off, a lot of those bulbs, the CFLs in particular, will their lifespan will be shortened by turning on and off. But it really depends on the type of light bulbs. You don't have to worry about with the other ones, especially the LED. You can turn those off and on all day. It really won't have much impact on those. Turning the lights off in general, especially if you're gone for more than 15 minutes, it's probably best to turn those light bulbs off. I've included just kind of some efficiency comparison here in the chart, just so you can know the efficiency of these. The old incandescent light bulbs, you're not going to see those. Those are by and large being phased out. You'll see some incandescents on the market still for specialty applications, but most of them are moving more and more towards these LEDs. LEDs only use about 20% of the energy, so they're much more energy efficient, and that's what the efficacy is. That second line item says that LEDs are 650% more energy efficient. They cost, in terms of the electricity they use, only $1 of electricity per year on average, and they last a lot longer, 25,000 hours compared to only 1,000 with those old-fashioned incandescent. There's a number of factors you can look at with lighting. If you look at the label on the right-hand side, 800 lumens is the brightness of this one. This is an LED, so it's about $1 estimated cost per year. Long lifetime, 22.8 years, and energy used, again, this is given in watts, so it's actually power, but that's the naming convention that we use there. I think a lot of us are familiar with the old light bulbs of being 100 watts and 50-watt light bulbs, but these LEDs have a much lower power rating, or as referred to here as the energy used. Now, I don't want to go through this math, but just to give you an idea of the different cost factors, if I were pricing out 10 bulbs of these different types, in the orange there, the cost of the bulbs, if I bought 10 incandescent bulbs, would be about $15, almost $16. Looking at the bottom of the chart, a smart LED, so if it's got Wi-Fi settings and other features, it could cost over $100. But what you'll see, even though the bulb might cost more, is it saves quite a bit in the annual cost. Look at the far right, and I've looked at a sample scenario using the same light bulbs, the same amount of time. You see quite a bit of savings with those more energy efficient bulbs. Okay, so your numbers might vary based on the bulb and the amount that you use the bulb and your utility rate, but you do see savings. Phantom power, you've probably heard of that before, different appliances using different amounts of energy when they're not being used. So, I'm looking behind my computer now, there's a printer on my desk, all of its lights are on. I think it's warning me that I'm low on ink. So I'm not printing anything right now, but it's using energy. And so that's what we're concerned with phantom loads, is those things that are using energy when you're not intending to use that energy. So cable box example here could cost you $38 per year. Printer, like the one on my desk, would only be about $1.10. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it can add up. You can plug those devices into a power strip and just turn the whole strip off, or you can get a smart power strip for relatively a low-cost power strip, and it provides you some options there on how to power things on and off to save that. I think this is the last bit of information, and then I'll take questions if there are any coming in. But if you look at energy efficient appliances, I've included this example with the refrigerators. The refrigerator on the right, refrigerator number 2, has the Energy Star label. It uses less energy, only 362 kilowatt hours. That's the information that you get from that yellow tag, and then the price difference. So not a huge price savings comparing those two refrigerators. I think a $5 price difference, but it can add up with those appliances. There's some other factors with heating and cooling, like these window units. They use the combined energy efficiency ratio, and we'll look at that next time. But there's a lot of information when you're comparing systems like that on getting the more energy efficient. But typically, you want those lower kilowatt hour per meter, kilowatt hour per device.